Hello, welcome to Full Sail University. Thank you so much for being here. Great to see you guys. So my name is Hunter Menning. I'm a manager in staff and cultural development here. And we have the biggest treat, the best event of all Hall of Fame this week. The event is titled Mixing Careers. And the duo you are about to see is one of the most successful in our industry. They're the best looking power duo in the industry. And they've got mega hits with all the mega stars you can list for like 2 beverages long. Are you with me? Ladies and gentlemen, our Hall of Fame inductee, Marcella, Araica, and 3-time Grammy winner, Danja. Yes. Ow. Wow, you have a fan club.
Yeah, I see. Hi, guys. And lady.
Well, thank you so much, you guys, for being here.
Thank you.
The moment you've been waiting for. Marcella, if you could be a professor at Full Sail University. What's up? What's up? Yeah. Tell us your first lesson.
My first lesson, I guess how to make a really good fruit basket, because that's where I started. And it really does matter. So, I think just making sure that your work ethic, I think I would do an amazing work ethic class, and just kind of, because at the end of the day, it's really about what you put in and how you showcase yourself. Being an engineer, it wasn't so much in the beginning about having the best ears per se. It was really about what my ambition was and really my focus and whatever it took to get to that point. Like I said, I made fruit baskets, or I did, coffee, the regular stuff, cleaning. You blew the leaves in the parking lot. Like, I did everything that you probably would be like, why does it even matter for you to do that when you want to be in the studio? But I guess it's just, it's something that you just got to do. I guess it's called like the hazing of it, But yeah, I think I do a work ethic class.
It's about elevation, right? We're going to take
Absolutely.
Danja's career higher. Dr. Danja, what's up? Right? You are now a professor at Full Sail University. Take us there. First class.
First class would be, I guess really just how to set the mood for the producer or the artist or the writer in the studio and leave them in their creative world and their creative space. So it'd just be really not being in the way, but still being accessible and still being alert, but at the same time, putting this person in the most comfortable atmosphere to be able to do their job with no pressure, we got to deal with a lot. Nowadays, we wear multiple hats, so we have, we're kind of executives at the same time. So we got our day job, and then we have our midday night job, which is the creative producers and mixing. So we need that atmosphere in the studio to be stress-free.
It's amazing that he mentioned that atmosphere and the vibe. I've heard sometimes you have to hang out together for 15 to 20 hours a day. Is that what's up? Is that for real?
Goodness, yes.
And you still have to like each other the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about, your relationship even, to be able to put up with each other that long. Is how important is vibe?
Vibe is everything. Being a creative person, it's really about, being in that environment where you're comfortable, where you're able to constantly keep your mind moving. And believe it or not, anything can kind of really halt that process, from anything, from the room being too hot to, even myself having a bad day and me walking in and he's just like, you know what, you're just messing me up today. Like, I need you to leave. And it's happened. I'm not perfect, and I'm a woman, so, things are a little...
Yeah.
It's so the real deal.
Hold on, she is perfect.
No, but, we've been working together now, I guess it's going on 10 years.
Yeah, about 10 years.
A very long time. And, from the first day, I started off working with Timbaland, and I was with him for a little bit, and Missy Elliot. And, Danja came walking through the studio one day, and, here I saw this young kid, and I honestly didn't know what he did at the moment because he didn't even introduce himself. He walked into the room and just went straight to the Triton keyboard and just started to pound on those keys and sequence something in 10 minutes that was so phenomenal that I was like, whoa, who is this guy? It just kind of came out that, Timbaland brought him in, and, we were going to be working together on some future projects. So that was sort of the basis of how we met and started to work together, was in that same room.
She not telling y'all like the 100% truth.
What am I missing?
She clearly
Take
didn't.
us there. Take us there.
She wasn't vibing with me.
Details.
She didn't like me.
Okay, this is true. This is true.
She found it very offensive that I was touching Timbaland stuff. So.
Like I said, I didn't know who he was, so he came in the room and just started hitting the keyboard, and I was like, who are you? And get off his keyboard now. And he looked at me like, who are you? So that was really the start of our, work relationship. It was a little rocky at first, but, just kind of seeing what his work ethic was, which was, look, Timberland would come in the studio at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, sometimes 1 a.m. I would be there from 1 p.m., and so would he. And here this guy was just creating from like 1 p.m. And here we are already at our 12th hour. And here comes Timbaland at 1 a.m. strolling in, ready to start his day.
Yeah.
So we're already like, oh my gosh. And when he comes in, it's like turn up time. Like, all right, he's ready to go. His ideas are flowing. He's jumping in the booth. I'm having to chop up samples and this and that. This one's still having to create and play chords on top of, his drum loops. It was just, it was an amazing experience. But that's sort of how we started to work together. Is we were just in the room together for so long. And, you kind of get, like, he was really quiet when I met him. So it was really strange because we never really spoke to each other. It was just like, he would be in his headphones and I'd just be waiting at the computer for him to tell me he's ready to record. And that's another thing, like, you have to be ready. When they're ready to, like, a producer or an artist is ready to record or get their creative idea out there, you can't be just flown around and, having lunch. And you just got to be ready for that any given moment, because you don't want them for, like, their ideas to just pass them by, and then it's kind of like, to be honest, it's kind of your fault when you're not there and when they need you.
Yeah, that's a key fact. If you can leave with anything today, know that speed is going to be your tool for any producer. Like, it's quickness, how fast you can move, because there's nobody that can move faster than how fast ideas come. So there's really nobody that can move fast enough. But if you can really keep up and think how we think in a way, you'll be okay. So her and Demo was Tim's engineer at the time, were just kind of, I would see Demo hit quick keys and do stuff so fast. I didn't think it was even possible. So she learned from him, and obviously that carried on through my workflow. So if anything, speed and really knowing Pro Tools in and out, or just whatever you're doing in and out, you have to know that tool.
Nice. Online, one of the journalists wrote that these two may be saving the music industry because they do it all, from talent development to coaching them, to writing the songs, recording and producing, every aspect right here. And you started the label, New Age Rock Stars. Give it up right here. Yeah.
Thank you.
We have to then start back at the birth. The spark, like, what happened? You were 4 or 5 years old, and somebody gave you your first, like, a Kai S900. What happened? If you hadn't seen that one, see me later. It's got floppy disks. Yeah. But what's the first spark of music that happened in your career, your whole life?
I think it was just really in my blood. I don't know where it came from, but I remember being super young and pulling every pot and pan out of my mom's cabinet to create a drum set. This was before I was young. I don't even remember how old I was. So time goes by. I was into a lot of other things, sports and stuff too. So I was really active in a lot of things. So I was about 9 years old. I got my first keyboard. And I remember looking at this thing. It was always in me to create music, never to learn how to play something, but to create it. So I remember looking at this thing like, how can I record? I remember making a track. I was just playing some stuff to a little demo beat inside of the keyboard and recorded it to tape. And that was at about 9 or 10 years old. So even more time goes by. I worked at got a job at Burger King. I went to Radio Shack. I seen this keyboard had a 6-track sequencer, and I thought that was the illest thing of all time. So I worked that summer. I got that keyboard, and that's when I really was like sequencing tracks, making tracks. Because before that, it was tapes. I was about 15. I was swapping tapes in and out, playing it from one radio to the next, recording it, playing on top of it, switching the tape, play it back, and that's how I would overdub. So I got the sequencer, and that was it. From that moment that I really got a sequencer, that's when I was really, really creating tracks every day, all day.
We will be showing pictures of cassette tapes later if you haven't seen them. Okay, sorry. Marcella, the first spark.
The first spark, for myself, I don't play any instruments. I'm not a musician at all, but for me, it was always a way, when growing up, my father played music that's in the house. And I always felt like I listened to it differently than most people, because I would, I guess, dissect it in my mind, from everything down from the sound to the lyric to the instrumentation, and I guess just the overall production of it all. And just for me, it was just being such a fan of music. And, early when I was younger, I did sing for a little bit, and I did a lot of theater work and whatnot, but that didn't really last long because I didn't like the stage, and I never really got over that stage fright that a lot of people say they have, but the moment they hit the stage, it kind of just goes away. That never happened for me. I just hated going on the stage. So for me, I just took that as something that I didn't want. I didn't want to follow. And it wasn't until years later that I knew I still wanted to take a career path in the music business. But of course, at a high school, a lot of these colleges back then, they weren't really offering any kind of music programs. Everything was like, well, if you don't play an instrument, then there's really nothing we can offer you. So it was really frustrating for me because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Well, not exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in music. The engineering path happened because in my journey of trying to figure out what I was trying to do after high school, I was in college and I kept changing my courses, from psychology to criminal justice to business administration. I mean, you name it, I did it 4 different times. I just kept switching my career paths up. And then my brother called me, and he was going to UCF down the street. And he was like, listen, I need you to come up here this weekend. I don't want to tell you what it is or what I want you to come up here for, but just come and trust me. And I, of course, that's my brother, and we're very close. And I'm like, all right, I just drove up from Miami, and he drove me to the school. And I didn't even know what Full Sail was. I was like, where am I? And what is this, And I'm talking, this was over 10 years ago now, that it's not the campus that it is today, but to me, it was still intriguing. It had a really cool vibe about it. And it happened to be one of the open houses where I took a tour. And literally that moment when I walked into one of the studios, I really just had that moment of wow, and I got to see that console, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And this is exactly what I want to do. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. And literally, I, inquired 6 months. I worked my butt off for 6 months to try to save money, and 6 months later, I enrolled and started my career. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
One of the top things in their mind is probably maybe things that really stood out in school. And then that first career break. Can you just keep going a little bit? And if you could think of that same thing when she's done.
Are you talking about
highlights from school?
Oh my gosh, the highlights from school. I mean, listen, the labs here. I mean, just having, being taught by someone as great as Hunter. That was, to me, that was just amazing because I've never had an instructor or a teacher that taught the way that he did. And, you know, for me, like, and the course that he was teaching was not easy. You know, it's like you're sitting here learning about LEDs and capacitors and resistors, and it's just like, and it's not the most interesting thing, if you know what I mean. It's like, but he made it so interesting, like to the point where you're just like, you wanted to learn more. So I, you know, taking his course was just, I loved it, you know, and that's why we're still friends today because he was so memorable and struck such a chord with me that I think we'll forever be in touch and be friends, you know, at this point. And then of course, like, you know, I had the advanced recording engineering course that I took. I mean, where I got my first opportunity to really start mixing down and really kind of, I guess, figure out what that was, which, to be honest, I really didn't know what that was until maybe 2 years later when I really started getting into it. But just even that first approach was just amazing. And, you know, just coming out of, when I graduated Full Sail and taking my internship at the Hit Factory in Miami, you know, it was 2 months into my internship when I got my first gig working with Missy Elliot. Granted, it was being a second assistant engineer in the room, but that role can be really, it's a really important role for two reasons. Because for one, you're the person that you're going to, like the artist or producer or whoever, the entourage that they bring in, you're going to be the person that they talk to for anything that they need. And that's an important role for them to build that relationship up with you. And then the other reason why it's important is because at any given moment, something can happen to that engineer. They can show up late, they can get sick, and you're the next one up. I mean, you're the one that's going to be you've been there, you know what's going on, you know where the files are at. So, you know, you just kind of have to, and you never know when that moment's going to happen. And for me, it happened one day when Missy's engineer, he was crazy, but somehow he ended up calling in and was like, I'm in the Everglades and I'm stuck on an airboat. And the alligators are surrounding, and I can't get there. It was the most craziest story. And I swear, I think, like, he just was tired of working with Missy at this point, because, you know, she's just, like, not the easiest person to work with. And, like, Missy, when she's ready to go. Like, she wasn't going to wait around for Carlos to come get off his airboat. She was just like, you know, she doesn't even say anything. She just walks in the booth. And you're just sitting there like, okay, and you know the engineer's not there, and you're not gonna stick around and be like, call somebody else in, because this is your shot, that's your moment, you know? And whether you fail or not, at least it's your moment. Needless to say, I failed. She didn't like it. She didn't like me very much. She kept calling me a turtle because I wasn't fast enough. So if any of you guys would love to know why I got the name Lago, or the Incredible Lago, well, the Incredible Lago came from him, but it came from my nickname, Marcy. And she ended up, after I ended up working with Demo and kind of learning Pro Tools and just kind of picking up the speed on it a little bit. And one day when I finally got my opportunity to work with her again, she kind of noticed the difference, and she was like, okay, Marcy Lago. So that's just sort of like how it all kind of happened. And then this one kind of translated into the Incredible Lago, and it's just been, you know, Miss Lago. It's just been all over the place. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's a crazy journey.
Nice. Okay, Danja, you're still at home, and you say, Mom and Dad, what's up? And you become the player, ready to leave home. He's ready to launch. Are you with me? Take us there. What was that first moment? What did the parents even say? Did they say, what, son?
No, I mean, I think they had trust in me, so, you know, I wasn't a troublesome kid or anything, so they let me do my thing, but they still didn't believe anything I was doing or had any idea or whatever. So I was about 18 years old, and I was really traveling since then on my own. A couple of friends of mine, I was with them. I was go to New York. I went to Miami. I was in and out of the studio with Teddy Riley because he was in Virginia at the time. I don't know. I know you guys don't know Leon Silvers, but Leon Silvers from Shalimar. Okay. So, you know, him in the studio with him, and he had his own label type situation, and he had groups and artists that I would work with. So, you know, right out of high school, I got real into it, like immediately. And the first break came when I met Tim for the first time. I was 20 years old. So just coming to the apartment First of all, he's like, why is Timbaland in this little small apartment, first of all? And this is when he had a million hits already, but he was just there with one of his friends. So his friend named Larry, brought me to him, and he talked to me at the time. Now, at the same time, it was Teddy Riley, Leon Silva. All of this was in the mix. So he talked to me for about 2 hours. He had a CD I made that had like 30 tracks on it. And he was just like, you got it. You don't need anything but sounds. Like, you got it. I got every sound in the world.
Fat beats.
Right.
Yeah.
I got every sound in the world. All you need is a sound library, but as far as the talent level, you there. And he started telling me things he wanted to do and everything like this. So for it to happen so fast for me out of high school, at that moment, I was 20 years old, so it was two years after graduation. Things didn't happen then, and it's crazy because Tim is so cocky that little old me, he told me, he was like, I want to do his voice, but I can't do his voice. He was like, if you don't come to LA with me, I'm gonna take it as you against me and you're not with me. So he put that threat on me that long ago. Oh, no. So things didn't happen then. And it was so cool meeting him and him talking to me that long. And I remember him pulling off. We all left. He pulled off in the car, and he's like playing my beat CD, like riding out. So that was crazy to me. So things didn't happen then. I was still persistent. I met with Fat Joe. I met with Scott Storch. I met with Duro. I met with Big Bert. I met with a lot of different people who heard my music, and I was like super jaded at this time. Like, all right, I'm like, there's nobody else to talk to. I know the last person I met with was Fat Joe, the summer of 2003. And he told me, who was in the room with me was DJ Khaled. Listen to the irony of all this. So DJ Khaled, Cool and Dre, Fat Joe. I was nowhere. Fat Joe told me, I don't hear the love in your music. I was like, all right, you might be right because I'm just jaded anyway, so you might be right. So Dre from Cool and Dre was right there. Every time I would play a beat, he would just look at me like, that's crazy. And Fat Joe was just walking around the house. Now, DJ Khaled just got some crazy promotion at the radio station, so he got his shirt off in the house. I'm at his house. Walking around crazy. They just on some other thing. Cool and Dre just got their label deal, so it was just crazy. And I was nowhere. And I left. Whatever Fat Joe said, it was cool, whatever. That same summer, I met Tim again on his tour bus. And it was 4th of July. And I played him some beats. He played 2 seconds of every beat, I swear. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. He didn't even listen to the tracks. Like, he didn't even listen to it. And
2 seconds.
Yeah, like,
gone in 2 seconds.
It's crazy. If she know he does his face like, and he that was it. It was silence for like 6 months. Wow. And around Christmas time, like a couple weeks before Christmas in December is when I flew out with Tim, and we was working on his tour bus, and I've been in Miami ever since. So that's when it started. That's when I was working with Tim before she knew, before I met her again the next year. So myself and Tim was building a chemistry and a track catalog and stuff like that, working on one of his artists. And that's where it started, so.
A lot of persistence.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Non-stop.
amazing. You know what? If you could just, part of the lesson that they don't teach in the books, right, between the lines, is the comfort and calmness that Danja gives. Doesn't that help? Like you could be in a studio hanging out all day long. Give it up for comfort right here, huh? Solid. Yeah. You rock. The birth, the spark of new age rock stars. Take us there.
It was hot in Miami.
Yeah. True story, though.
We
True story.
was tired. we've been working with Tim for so long and just going through the all nights.
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
22 hours a
session.
day sessions. Yes.
We sitting out.
She said 22 hours a day.
Yeah.
We're sitting in front of the studio, and mosquitoes eating us up and everything. But we didn't care. We just hot. We over it. And we just like, you know what? We just got to start our own record label. This was before anything happened. Like, we were working, both of us were in with the camp, with Tim and everything
Yeah,
like
this
that.
is before like the Britney records.
Yeah, this is before
This is
all
still
of
like
this stuff.
2005.
Yeah, this is before all the hit records kind of happened. And it was something that we just talked about at that moment. And I remember that moment, and it was something we stuck with for that time. And we just need to get into breaking our own artists and doing our own label type situation. We didn't, we came back to it years later, but I think that was the initial
That was the idea that was born.
idea and spark of the conversation.
Yeah, and then we ended up, I guess what, it was about 2008? 2008, we, weirdly enough, it's a lot of things are just so weird, but we had a session one night in Miami working with this girl group, and for some reason, like, we didn't have a songwriter in the session. And out of nowhere, this kid shows up that we've never met before, and he just comes stumbling, like literally, like he tripped into the door, into the studio, and we just see it, this kid with like a blue KC hat on and a wife beater. And we just look at this kid like, who are you? And he just like, I'm Kevin Cossum. And literally, we're like, okay, we work with him, and he knew right away that was going to be our first act. That was instant for him. I said it. The funny thing is, it was already in his head, and I went to him. I'm like, it'd be cool if we sign him. And he's like, I'm already on it. And I was like, okay. And Kevin Cossum was our first signing, and that's really where New Age Rock Stars really became the label. And then from there, we signed a couple years later Luke James, who is now signed to Mercury Island Def Jam. Kevin Cossum is signed to RCA. And then we have two other developing acts, Wild and Caligula, two hip-hop artists. So it's been an amazing opportunity to work with them all. It's been a ride. It's been a lot of lessons. Like he said in the beginning, we wear a lot of different hats. Executive by day, engineer, producer by night. So if you can imagine, our sleep schedule is very, very small and small window of sleep. So yeah.
No, I'll just say it's a lot of work, but we kind of can carve out our own path. That's the beauty, the beauty in it, and to not to get too crazy, but just the music industry and in a totality is, everybody is in a place where you can do your own thing. It's just set up in that way with the media outlets from Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
Right.
Everything you can do to get yourself out there, the cameras, how they made Pro Tools affordable. You can, in your garage, literally create your own artwork, your own album artwork, your own video, post it, record, mix, and everything in your own garage. Do all of that, get 1 million views on it, and go and walk into a label and get your own label deal and situation, and you've done all of that inside of your garage. So that's the era we live in, and that's kind of how we take advantage nowadays, because we can do it ourselves, and nobody can tell you that what we're doing is wrong. Like,
Right.
There's nothing wrong with what we're doing. So
It's our open platform of creativity, So that's what makes it fun.
exactly.
If you haven't seen it, you need to. The video on YouTube is of Danja playing drums. I'm serious, 30-second, quadruplet 30-second notes. I've never seen anybody with double bass and hands like him. You need to see it, because seriously, in the top 5 drummers in the world right here.
No way.
When I saw
No
it, it
way.
all made so much sense that the beats he comes up with are unreal. So, and what you just heard with this story of New Age rock stars is each one of you has a talent. And the key is to find your talent within you and develop it. And the question is what level, how good do you want to be? They want you to be the rock star at your talent. Are you with me? So that if you haven't seen it, you need to, because it's a schooling, okay? I don't know, like, and it's so funny you said earlier, you don't play to do what, you play to something. That was like the classic line. Mm-hmm. You didn't play to practice, you played to get a, what was that?
I'm not sure. When did I say this? Last night?
We'll rewind the tape later. Do you have any advice for each of them? And this is interesting because you're in college and somebody says, hey, there's a party happening Saturday, right? How many parties did you skip to practice your skill?
Oh, man. How many?
See, what's up, right?
Continuously skip.
Yeah, I still skip the party.
What advice do you have for them to find the highest level of their gift and skill?
I think you just have to you spend that time with, first of all, you have to love it to be able to do it so much and so long. For me, I'm a weirdo because I'm actually intrigued by sounds and stuff. So I'm just like, I hear a sound, I'm just in my own little world listening to the sound. So when it comes to making tracks, it was to get good and to, I would mimic Tim, I would mimic Pharrell, I would mimic Rodney Jerkins, I would mimic everybody that I can mimic to the point that I felt like I was beating some of them to the punch with what I thought that they would create next. And eventually that morphed into my own style. So that's why when I guess you hear what I do, it's so many elements and so many different things in it. But that's just development, and even our move to LA for me was, I knew I needed development. Now this is after all the hits. Now how can I possibly say I need to be developed after I have hit records? But I knew that I did, and I knew I needed to take another step forward. And LA left us with nothing else to do but be in the studio. Like LA has no nightlife for real, and it is a beautiful city, but it's just terrible. But we were just in the studio all the time. I was in the studio all the time, studio at the house. And even, I know I'm fast forward a lot of time, but just to even go back, it was still the same thing. I skipped a lot of parties, a lot of clubs, a lot of girls, a lot of things to get where I need to be. And it was just wanting to be in a certain place. I felt like I wasn't going to get where I wanted to go unless I was in the studio doing my thing and honing my skills and my craft. So I wanted to learn my equipment inside and out and everything. So that's why, all I used was the Triton, and I would EQ and everything. I would use the mastering effects and everything on the Triton. And people would be like, I don't understand how you get it to sound that way out of this keyboard. I just really don't get it. But that's what I tell people. You just have to know. That's what I said earlier. Know inside and out the Pro Tools or your compressors and your outboard gear, your SSL. You got to notice things like the back of your hand, and it takes time to do it. So spend that time. You're not going to be uncool if you don't go to the party, because a lot of people, I'm proud to be able to say that I've had my business managers and everybody tell me, look, you can stop right now if you want to. I had a dream years ago. A dream of mine was to be able to retire at 30 years old. So I'm about to turn 32 years old, and I have these people telling me, you cannot do anything if you don't want to. But I spent my whole 20s in the studio, and now I can live my 30s and 40s partying while y'all in there working. I'm still young.
You are the party now.
Party, right? So just to let you know that you just have to spend that time. You're gonna have to sacrifice some of those nights and days, and you're gonna disappoint some people and break some hearts at the same time. But that's just what comes along with it.
That's the bottom line. It's just really sacrifice, because you are gonna be missing a lot of really important events, holidays, birthdays, you name it. I remember the first time I missed Christmas. I've never missed a Christmas ever with my family. And I was in the studio with Missy, with Missy of all people. She doesn't stop working. But yeah, she wanted to work on Christmas. And, you know, my family celebrates from Christmas Eve. And I remember just being in the studio and I just, like my eyes just got watery. Like it's a very emotional thing. Like when you're knowing that you're missing these important, you know, just dates, you know, and things that can never be, you know, you can never get that back. You know, I've missed baptisms. I have 3 beautiful nieces. I've missed a lot of their birthdays. But bottom line is, it's sacrifice. And, you know, when you really love what you do, it really isn't going to be hard because that's really what you're going after. It's a passion. And you know, bottom line is you go after what you love, and that's basically what we did. So the parties that we missed, it was no sweat off our shoulder. I really could care less. You know, like I'd hear about it the next day. I might have lived through some of the stories that people would tell me, like, oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, I mean, looking back 10 years later, I have no regrets, and I live my life with no regrets. So even if I did, I mean, it is what it is. There was no regrets. I know what I've missed. I know like he said, I've hurt people as well. Relationships have been, you know, sacrificed, and you know, family and friends. A lot of people don't really understand that, because you got to understand what we do is not a 9-to-5 gig. It's not an 8-hour-a-day. You clock in, clock out. This is nonstop,
24.
nonstop. And, you know, when you're really into it, nothing else is really going to matter. And that's when you really know that you're doing something the right way. And that's how, like, because I'm not going to lie, like, I was the party girl. Like, that's me. I was it. I would love to party. But when I found what I really wanted to do, man, I graduated this school with perfect attendance. I'm talking, high school, I missed, who knows, 30 out of 45 days and a quarter. Like, I was not good, okay? But that's only because I wasn't, you know, enjoying what I was doing. And that's why I feel like later on in life, when you find out what you really want to do and what your path is, that's when you, like, you hook onto that and you follow your dream. You know, I have a little saying that I didn't tattoo the saying. I tattoo dream and love on my wrist, but it's something that I always look at every day, because my saying is, you dream with your life and you love every minute of it. And that's something that I hold and I say to myself on a daily basis, because I'm a dreamer. And everything that I've achieved in my life started off as a dream that I made come true. And, you know, it's just something that, you know, like I worked really, really hard. And, you know, it all goes back to the first thing I sat down on this table, and it's work ethic. You know, you really got to work hard. So, you know, for all you guys out there really going out there and wanting to be engineers and producers, songwriters, and et cetera, you know, I really commend you guys, and just I wish you guys the very best, because it's an amazing journey once you get into it. And I know you guys are not sitting here paying this tuition just to do it. Like, you guys will love it. It's a ride. So.
You get out of it what you put into it. That's just the bottom line.
Right.
The reward is great, so don't think that it's going to be given to you and it's easy, because it's not. But it's many a day, it's many a nights. Even now, it's not, and it never ends. It's going to be, it just evolves. The grind and the hustle is the same. Your goal, even with success, is just a new set of goals. And you still reach points where you want to quit and give up. I think you just don't, you're not doing enough if you don't ever feel like you want to quit. So, you know,
true.
you got to put it in, it's whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out. Because at the end of the rainbow, the pot of gold, you'll be swimming in it like Scrooge. But you got to work for it, so.
He did say swimming.
Yeah.
Big money. If we could focus on 2 words that Marcella just mentioned, work ethic. That first moment that you enter that first job, that first internship, there's probably a wealth of advice you may have and things you've noticed from interns that you hire even. Maybe that first launching step, is there a few pieces of advice that maybe we could share that would help them to not have to stumble through them? Like you wish somebody would have told you.
I mean, I can really just kind of tell you my story, I guess, and kind of just derive from that. For me, when I attended Full Sail, I knew, let me just start off like this. I guess you start off with a plan. And when I started Full Sail, my plan was I wanted to work at home. Home is Miami. That's where I'm born and raised. And that was going to be a really risky move, I guess. Well, not sort of move, but just where I wanted to be, because Miami wasn't really known as the music market. When I graduated, it was New York and it was LA. And I wanted to be in Miami. And so I did my research as to where I could work when I graduated. So that was my plan. My plan was doing the research. Once I did the research, I knew exactly where I wanted to be, and that was the Hit Factory. Now, from that moment, I started to make myself known to the studio manager by calling him and just letting him know that I was like, I have 9 months left of school. You know, all I know is when I graduate, I want to work there, so make sure there's a position open. He was just like, I don't know who you are, but stop calling. And I was like, okay, I'll just call back in like 3 more months. And, you know, I was really persistent because, for one, I really wanted to be at home, and two, I really wanted to work at the Hit Factory in Miami. You know, it was a place that had a lot of history. Hit Factory was actually known as Criteria Studios. It's been around for over 50 years now. So, I mean, you're talking James Brown, you're talking every artist from, you know, the 60s and up, like, was working out of this studio. So I was like, I have to work there. You know, eventually I just kept calling. Eventually I called him and said, you know, I'm gonna come down. I think I had like 5 months left. I came down and I wanted to take a tour of the place just so he could put a face to the name that just kept calling him. You know, it was all like a plan of mine. Like, I was just like, I just wanna make sure this guy knows who I am. And, you know, I went and took the tour. He didn't even meet me. He passed me on to his assistant. And so, you know, still I didn't, you know, get to him. But, you know, about a month left of my schooling, I called him again and I said, listen, I'm graduating next month. You know, if you have a position open, I'd love to be there, you know. And he was like, well, I have nothing open, but, you know, I'll keep you in mind. And literally, like, when I graduated, never got the call. But 2 weeks after I graduated, my luck changed and I got the call. I guess something opened up and he asked me he's like, when can you come in for an interview? And I didn't even tell him I was in Orlando. I was like, tomorrow. Like, literally, I was just gonna jump in my car and just go. So, like, you know, I went for the interview. I thought I bombed it because I was really nervous and I was sweating and I was a mess. And, you know, he ended up calling me like 24 hours later and I got the job, which as a general assistant. But for me, like, I think, you know, just having a plan and making sure that, you know, like you set that goal and you set that plan and you kind of go after it. From there, I mean, a lot of things, it's hard for me to say, like, what can I tell you guys? Because a lot of things is like, it's unpredictable what happens in the studio. It really is. I mean, like, so it's really hard to kind of be like, what, you know, what's that one piece of advice? And to be honest, like, you know, luckily I had such an amazing, you know, foundation of knowledge of what was taught to me when I was attending here. But a lot of things is trial and error. I think, you know, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Just don't blow nothing up. You know, like, if you really don't know what you're doing and you think, like, just don't blow nothing up. But don't be afraid to make a mistake. You know, I think that's one of the key things. I remember when I was first starting off, I was so afraid to make a mistake that a lot of people just took that as like, she doesn't know what she's doing. And instead of me just applying myself and just kind of doing it, whether it was wrong or right, I kind of just like, you know, like, I remember, like, I was just so nervous. And I just think, like, you know, it's like when you first start to walk, like, you're gonna fall, you're gonna bump your knee, but that's how you learn to walk, you know, and that's how you learn not to fall. You know, you gotta stand up straight, you know, and sometimes that's just, you know, the same thing applies. I think, you know, you just, you know, go in there and give it your best. And I think when you do that, people recognize that. And I know that from working now and having assistants work for me, whether they're employees of mine or I'm working at a new studio and I have to work with a new second assistant in the room. I don't really care if they don't know everything. I just care if they apply themselves. I just care if they're ready. And I think that to me is one of the best things that I can really tell you guys, because at the end of the day, it's really about being ready in any capacity, whether it's you just being there, you know, just for them to turn around and just say, hey, can you patch that? Or, hey, can you grab me a cup of coffee? Or just anything. And, you know, or...
It all changes when they say, can you, when that one engineer says, can you just sit here for a second and record this person while
yeah,
I run to the bathroom. And
I do that a lot.
That is, like she said earlier, that is your time to hold it down. So, because it's gonna, I know me, if you sit down and you can do the job, I'm probably gonna keep calling you back to do the job.
Yeah.
So you just have to know, what you're doing. Just be knowledgeable of everything in the studio, because it just goes back to what she said earlier. Once you get that shot, it could all change, and be prepared to outwork everybody. Like, I think that's what you have to do. Even down to me and my work ethic, when it came to Tim, I was prepared to outwork him or anybody around him, any other producer or anybody. I was prepared to do way more than what he was going to do, whoever it was. So he was going to have to. It got to a point where he might not have got to the studio at 1 a.m., 10 a.m., but he started getting there about 6 or 7 o'clock.
Absolutely. Eventually things change.
Yeah, so you just have to outwork. That's be prepared to work. And even when it goes to making a mistake, if you don't know how to fix the problem, call somebody who does. Like, we just want the problem fixed. We don't care how it gets done. If you fix it, if the tech fix it, or the runner fix it, somebody got to come in here and fix it. You just have to be smart enough to, if you can't fix it, to go get somebody. Because I heard her saying, don't be afraid to make a mistake. But I've been in a room when people make mistakes in front of her.
Wait.
And
take us there.
I'm surprised some of them still got their head on their shoulders.
Wow.
But
It's
you know
about
what? We just come from a different school. It's just a different class we come from. And a lot of people sometimes that we're around just don't, what are you in there for? Like, honestly, I want everybody to raise your hands. Who is here to be a producer? Who is here to be a songwriter? Okay. Who is really here to be a mixer? Okay, you want to mix, songwrite, produce, you want to do everything. Sometimes with us, we may hire somebody or bring in an intern. We need to know what your motives are. Like, don't come in the studio because you want to be that producer and this is your way in, but you're here to be a engineer or something like that, because I need you to devote wholeheartedly your engineering, because that's what I need you here for. Right. So, I understand everybody has a side motive and they want to, what they ultimately want to get to, I get it. But, doing that job in the studio, you have to be ready and you have to know it. Like, I'm not looking for your opinion on how my kick sounds versus this drum or with this bass line or anything like that. I'm looking forward to how it sounds just in the mix or in the blend or when you record it or anything like that. So, just ultimately be honest with yourself at the same time. Like, I know people are taking this route to get to where they want to go. But yeah, I could have taken the same route. I could have applied to Full Sail and maybe that would have been my way in. But I think whatever your path is, you have to go wholeheartedly at that. Whether it's songwriting, whether it's mixing, whether it's producing, or really audio engineering, recording, and mixing. Like, you have to put that time there, and we need your 100% undivided attention in that area. So, just be prepared to work in that space,
Did you hear the words outwork, right? Turn to somebody sitting next to you and say, I'm ready. Are you ready to outwork everybody else? Go right now, quick. Okay, play yours. That's right. That's the lesson. You're being schooled right here. Outwork them all. If we could, the success of that outworking is now this next moment. Are you ready? Take us there. The first time you heard a song you worked on air. What was the feeling? Like goosebumps, take us there. What happened?
Yikes. I'm trying to remember what song that was. Hands and Feet. That was my first mix. You could. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to, I think the first time, it was Hands and Feet was my first mix, but I think one of the not biggest, but the big record that I ever heard where it was like on the radio, I had a video to it, blah, 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 was Work It, Missy Elliot. And that's when I was like, whoa. Because I had a moment when I heard it, or I'm trying to remember if it was the video I saw, I can't remember, but, and this is true story, guys, seriously. It's really weird. I've been a fan of Missy and Timbaland and their whole camp. I mean, from Static Major to Tweet to, just everybody that came from that camp, for Genuine, Aaliyah, everybody, since I was in high school. And I remember the first time I heard One in a Million. I mean, just loved Aaliyah, but more than anything, I loved the beat. So I became just so obsessed over like Timbaland, like, whoa. And then Missy, I remember the first time I heard, what was it called? Here Comes the Rain, what is it called? The Rain, where she was in that trash bag, black suit, dancing. And, like for her, that beat, the same thing, but then her visual, I was just like so intrigued. And I knew in high school, like I said, I wanted to follow a music career path. I just didn't know what at that time. And I said to myself, this is when Genuine came out, I think with Pony. I'm just talking, they had a run. And I said to myself, what I said was, I was going to meet them one day. To myself, I'm going to meet them one day, and I'm going to work with them. I didn't know I was going to be an engineer in high school, mind you. I didn't know in what capacity I was going to work with them, but I knew that I wanted to meet them and work with them. So the surrealist part, I guess, was 2 months into my internship when Trevor, the studio manager, called me upstairs and was like, "You ready?" And when he said those words to me, like all I knew was something that was told to me by one of my instructors was, when they ask you that, it's your yes moment, because you may not get that again. And I just couldn't believe that it was Missy, because I know exactly, and it wasn't anything that I ever shared with anybody. Like, it wasn't even a thing where when I grow up, I want to work with Missy. It wasn't even like that. It was just something that I wanted to. I was just so intrigued by their movement that I wanted a part of it. So I don't know if I put it in the universe early on, and that's just how it kind of turned back around. But it's just amazing how it became Missy, and then from Missy it became Timbaland, and then eventually Jimmy Douglas, which was the mixing engineer that I worked under, because when I started to really follow the engineering path, that's when I got really intrigued on learning and mix engineers. And then I quickly found that Jimmy Douglas did everything, Timbaland, Missy, Aaliyah, everything, like you name it, he did it all. So just even the fact that he was the one that I learned under was just even more just like, this is crazy. But Work It, I think I just had that moment like, really? Did I really just work on this record? And then it brought me back to that moment in high school when I first saw The Rain, and I really just wanted to be a part of that whole like Missy Timbaland movement, and it just ended up being that's who I worked with first. So it's just, I guess it just feels like a dream. That's the best way. It just doesn't really feel real. It's like you almost like, okay. And even to this day, like I'll be like in a clothing store and then like, I don't know, Promiscuous Girl comes on and I'm just like, all I can ever think about is just the moment when we recorded it, and recorded that entire album, Loose, with him, Timbaland, Nelly Furtado, and Demo. And just even other songs, that I've worked on. It's just like, even songs that I don't even hear ever. Like the other day I was in somewhere and I heard Sierra Turntables. I was like, and it's funny because I'll hear it and I'll be like, why does it sound familiar? And I promise you, I'll have this moment until like a minute and a half of the song goes through. I'm like, wait a minute, I worked on that. Like, and I think it's just that, like, you're just like, okay, like it's cool, but it's still, I don't think you ever get sick of it. I think it just always stays very dreamlike. Like, it's like, wow, because you're a part of history, ultimately. You know, music is never gonna go nowhere. So at the end of the day, like everything that you work on, it's always going to be there. And I think that's the most special part about what we do, is that you're constantly just leaving your mark, you know, and very, very blessed.
You just got a glimpse of why she's Hall of Fame. Seriously, did you notice she was thinking, being it, before she became it? My boss, Kirk Squires, says that to us all the time in our department. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Danja. That first time you heard it. What's up?
I want to fast forward one song to the first song that like really kind of hit was the I'm So Fly with Lloyd Banks that I did with Tim. It's video and everything, and it was, you know, because it happened so fast from myself and Tim starting to work. So it was just like we started working, we went in with Lloyd Banks throughout that year, and we did it, we mixed it, created it, and it was out. It was like his second single. So that just let me know that was an awakening, first of all, just the process of record making, how by the time you guys hear it, just the process sometimes it get to you guys, is on the fast track sometimes. So that was the first one, but I think when it really, that was the first one, then it was a while before anything else. So it was like, the second one was Promiscuous Girl with Tim and Nelly. So I was hearing it, and like the first two times, like, all right, it's playing on the radio. And then all of a sudden, it's like that song that we all hear that's playing all the time on the
Mega
radio.
hit.
Right, so it was like...
difference.
That was the difference. It was
When
just
it's a hit record, it's different.
And then you hearing it on, I would switch stations and it's on another station. Like, right when it's about to turn off, I just like, all right, I'm over it. I'll go to another station, it's on again.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow. And for me, it just got really crazy because it went that, then Sexy Back, then My Love, then Man Eater was doing crazy overseas, then another Justin record, then another Nelly record, Say It Right. Then What Goes Around Comes Around. So it was all of these records at one time on the radio. That was crazy. That was like, I don't even know what's going on, but I still didn't know. Even we would go to the clubs and we would, like, Sexy Back would come on in the club and it would be the biggest uproar.
I just want to mention, I think that's when it really, I think Kiji said it, when you hear it in the club, when you see the reaction of people, whether it's the club or you go to a concert or you go to the artist show and you actually see I think that's when it really hits you. When it hits you. Because hearing it on the radio, that's cool, and it's I'm not taking anything away from that. But when you see people feel the music that you create, or put your hands on, now that's is crazy. Because I remember the first time I went, we did Knock You Down with Keri Hilson. I'll never forget this moment. I think we were celebrating my birthday in Miami. Was it? We were celebrating my birthday in Miami. We were at Club Live. We were, I don't know if any of you have been up there, but there's a second floor to that club, and you kind of just look down and below. And I couldn't believe that I just saw the entire club. And I'm not talking like just women. Because now Knock You Down, if y'all know, is like kind of like it's a girl song. It's like love, you know? Yeah. No, you saw the fellas in there like, dun, 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 like going crazy. And I was like...
That was crazy.
You see this? I was like, you see this?
I'm talking about like...
And that to me was amazing. Yeah,
I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Cue it now.
Right.
That was amazing. No, I felt that was cool.
Seeing the reaction is a different thing. Hearing it on radio is amazing, absolutely. But seeing how people react to it is totally different. So during that time, we had all those records. So Promiscuous would come on and Sexy Back and all these records would come on in the club and you would just hear it and it's like, this is crazy.
I just need to tell you, I mentioned to my family who I was hosting, and I'm serious, they started screaming and jumping up and down. We've danced to that song. In fact, Knock You Down can make a 13-year-old boy sing out loud, for real. I've got proof, I got video at my house,
wow.
Okay? Yeah. So What's amazing here is that if you added all of the record sales, downloads, and video hits, we're talking seriously 1 billion right here between these two. Are you with me? Give it up for the power team, the duo.
Thank you.